How annoying is that light behind me? I can't tell. Is that super annoying?
I don't think
Nope, it
so,
seems
Joe.
okay.
Yeah, it looks good. The brick wall offsets it, so I think it's good.
Cool. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Thanks, Raymond. Welcome to our virtual Jackalope Users Group meeting. Thank you all for attending. People are still trickling in, so I'll just keep it light here for a little bit. Christy in chat asks, could people modify their display names in the attendee window to include the state or group they're from? That's actually a really good idea. If you don't know how to do that, you should be able to in the, I think it's the file. I'm on a Mac, so it's probably different for Windows people. Does anybody with Windows know how to do that real quickly? It's for
Joe,
me,
it,
it's
it
in.
looks like if you hover over your name and you right mouse click, you get some options, including, sorry, that was the wrong one. Boy, I just changed my name, and now I think maybe Christy was speaking up, so ignore me then.
Okay,
Yeah,
it sounds like from
if you
Mark.
right click your name, you can just hit edit your name and email in the attendees window.
Okay, perfect.
Although the high desert people will probably not change our names because this is our permanent login that we use on an everyday basis. So the
and we're
Catherine,
all
Cindy,
organizers, so it's
yeah,
probably
organized, yeah.
we'll be at
Okay.
the top. So we're pretty easy. Yeah, good plan. Thanks, Christy. All right, we've stabilized at 40 attendees for about a minute, so I'm going to assume we're all here. So yeah, welcome to the users group meeting. I'm Joe Wilkinson, president of High Desert, and I probably know most of you all, but let's get right in. I was going back and forth on the introductions. You know, it's a little bit painful to go through introductions on a virtual meeting, but because of the slide that I'll go through next, I really do want to get people kind of in the habit of talking in the virtual meeting, which I know is it's a challenge. No one likes to do that. I know I don't like to do that. But if you guys don't mind, let's just go through the list and I'll call out the people, and we're just going to go in order of the GoToMeeting attendee list. And if you don't mind just giving your name, your organization, you know, any other information about why you're here, just to get an idea of who's here, and yeah, and then we'll just go down the list. So Catherine.
Hi, I'm Catherine from High Desert. I do customer service, technical support, and I contact and am in contact with almost everyone on the list, and good to see you all joining.
Hi,
Cindy?
I'm Cindy Katana. I work for High Desert. Title-wise, I'm a statistician, and I do the reports, SQL stuff. So that's it.
Hi guys, Drew Pullum, business analyst for High Desert. Do a little bit of everything, and I wish we could have met in person this year, but you know, glad everybody's here.
I feel you. Me too. Jeff?
Yeah, this is Jeff. I'm a software developer at High Desert. You probably also know me. So,
Laura?
Good morning, everyone. Laura Harwin with High Desert. I do customer service as well, and I will be your main contact person after the conference is over to provide any sort of documentation we talk about, presentations you want to see, and I'm also recording all the sessions and we'll make them available on our YouTube channel for those who couldn't join or who want to refer back to someone. So, good morning.
Susie?
Hello, everybody. Susie Ford. I am with High Desert, product manager, formerly with Wisconsin DOT as a section chief. So I know many of you from being at the conferences, and I'm really excited for this virtual presentation that is going to be going on in the next couple of days.
All right. And that's done with High Desert people. Alexandra?
I'm Alex. I'm a research analyst at MnDOT.
Okay. Andrew from MnDOT?
I am Andy Cheetah with the traffic volume program at MnDOT. Been there about almost 10 years this year.
Cool. Bill?
Sorry, unmute. This is Bill Hughes from Kansas DOT. I manage traffic count program.
Brian?
Yeah, this is Brian Regan, Missouri Department of Transportation and Transportation Planning Section.
All right. Robert?
Robert doesn't have a mic, so this is Melissa Brown for Robert. Robert is our new branch manager in Kentucky, and he joined us in December.
Okay. Welcome, Robert. Chad?
Chad Matthews, Wyoming DOT. I manage the traffic count program here, and it's my duty to bug Catherine and Laura on a pretty regular basis.
Chris?
Yeah, I'm Chris Wright. I oversee the traffic forecasting, traffic modeling, and short-term and continuous counts for NDOT.
Okay. Christy?
Hello, my name is Christy Prentice, and I supervise the total volume program at Minnesota.
Dave?
Dave Hughes, Wisconsin DOT. I work mostly with a continuous data program.
Noah?
I'm Noah Fector. I'm with the Iowa DOT. I work mainly on the short-term sites. I'm also in the room with Tanya Sullivan and Jorge Zamora.
Okay. Are you guys actually at the office?
Yeah, we are in the office right now in a little bit of a conference room.
Cool. Okay. I didn't realize people had gone back yet. That's cool. And you said you're with Mark?
I've got Tanya Sullivan and Jorge Zamora, who overtook Ron Bunting's position.
Okay. Okay. Oh, Mark's next on the list. Hey, Mark.
Hi, Mark Hansen, Iowa DOT. I am working from home, and I oversee the short-term count side at the Iowa DOT.
Brian?
Brian Carlson. I work with the continuous count sites for the Iowa DOT.
All right. Jeff?
I'm Jeff Houston. I'm a traffic analyst at the Iowa DOT with Noah, Brian, and a few other people here. And we mostly overlook short-term traffic.
Okay. Jenny?
I'm Jenny Hartley. I'm from Nevada DOT. I'm a transportation analyst.
Okay. Jermaine?
Jermaine, Nevada DOT, over continuous women class data.
John? Cool. Oh, John says he doesn't have a mic, but he's great to listen in. John's from BC, British Columbia. And actually, John Mazurek is John Phillips.
John Phillips is in the office. He's with Idaho Department of Transportation, and I believe he's working with one of the field guys right now.
I'm here now. I just got here.
Just in the nick of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Libby?
Is there a question for me, or?
Oh, no. Just.
Okay.
Yeah, we were going to ask you the best way to calculate ADTs in a high recreational area with. No, just kidding. All right. Libby doesn't have a mic. She works in the vehicle class program for MnDOT. Manny.
Good morning, everybody. Manny Chavez. I handle continuous counts for Missouri Department of Transportation.
Margaret.
I'm Margaret Pridmore, and I'm with Idaho Transportation Department, and I'm the manager of the Roadway Data Program.
Mark.
I'm with Nevada DOT.
Kansas DOT. I work primarily with the class.
Okay. Are there two Marks there?
Yeah, sorry, second Mark from Nevada Department of Transportation. I'm the Traffic Information Division Administrator.
Okay. Welcome. Megan. If you're having technical difficulties, you can we can. I see you're from MoDOT, Missouri. Melissa, we've already heard your voice once, but you can speak again. Oh, Megan's mic isn't working.
This is Melissa Brown from Kentucky DOT. I handle all the ATR data, some short terms, and all the HPMS statistics.
Okay, great. Michael.
It's Michael Bailey. I'm the data manager for the BC Ministry of Transportation here. I work with WSD.
Nicholas.
Hi, Nicholas Black with Utah Department of Transportation. I manage the short-term accounts and continuous account stations and our data monitoring group.
Raymond.
Raymond Wong. I work for the Idaho Transportation Department. I'm a research analyst.
Rob. Maybe Rob's mic isn't working either. Rob's from WisDOT. Andrew.
Andrew Short, Iowa Department of Transportation, and I do the weigh in motion here in Iowa.
Okay. Spencer.
Hi, I'm Spencer Robinson. I'm a supervisor over our traffic and data collection department in Missouri Department of Transportation. I also handle forecasts and SQL stuff for us.
Okay. Tony.
I'm Tony Grange. I'm with the Idaho Transportation Department, and I deal mostly with the continuous site data.
Okay. Troy. Nope. Troy works with short-term counts for Missouri DOT. His mic's not working. And Vicki.
I'm Vicki Calderon with the Idaho Transportation Department, and I'm the Principal Research Analyst in the Roadway Data section.
Great. And did anybody come in while we were doing our introductions and want to put themselves out there?
I just got on. Stephen Helms with Nevada DOT, and I am in the continuous count section.
Okay. All right, Rob's going to review it. His mic's being fickle. Okay, which is something we'll talk about in a second. Let's go over our agenda real quickly. Well, we've got 4 days scheduled here, and what we've done is we've broken it up into shorter segments. As you know, if you've been to our users group meeting in the past, we usually had 3 days that were pretty full. We would start at 8 or 8:30 and go all the way until 4:30 in the afternoon. We figured that would be way too painful in a virtual format for everybody to deal with. So we chopped it up into shorter sections and extended it a little bit. And of course, starting today, we normally would start on Tuesday. And so today we've got me babbling on about all this stuff. And we'll be talking, after this, Kathy's going to be talking about our new RC and what's going to be coming in that. Laura Harwin's going to be talking to you all about some of the challenges of working remotely in this new world we're living in right now. and Drew's going to talk about Meyer and lengthened class collection survey at the end of this morning's session. We're going to have lunch at 10 Pacific, and by the way, these times, of course, are all Pacific, so add appropriately. 11 for me in the mountain. After which, we're going to have Susie talk about cluster analysis and regrouping sites into appropriate groups, and talk about the basics of that, and of course ask, get questions, feedback on what's going on there. I'll do a turning movement demo at 12. Catherine's going to talk about bike and pedestrian setup and what you guys want to see from that, in discussion about what requests are being made to you, what kind of reports you need to be generating back to people. And then we'll end today with a scheduler demo. And we're ending at 2:30 Pacific. And then tomorrow we're meeting at the same time, 7 a.m. for the Pacific folks. I'll start off with HPMS demo, which is annual phase 5. Stephen Jessberger from Federal Highways, who actually I didn't hear in the list, maybe he's not going to show up until tomorrow. We'll be talking about the FHWA topic request survey, and we'll be responding to questions submitted to that. Rob from Wisconsin is going to talk about 2020 short-term count program survey results. We'll break for lunch again. I will talk about pandemic impacts, questions that came up earlier, and how that, the questions from earlier are going to be kind of at a general business level. How does it affect your business? I'll be talking about specifically how we can deal with those things in Jackalope. Then we've got Bill from Kansas, Spencer from Missouri, and Tyler from Wisconsin. We'll be talking about using the public database and what you can use that for. Then at the end of tomorrow, Catherine and I will be talking about annual phases, which is pretty important. It's a pretty big part of what some people spend their lives doing at the first couple quarters of the year. So we'll be doing that and closing up that tomorrow and adjourning at 3. Following that, on Wednesday, we're going to go over roads and highways implementation and integration. It seems like many people are either have implemented roads and highways, well, not many people have implemented roads and highways, or are somewhere in the road of implementing roads and highways, or maybe thinking about it sometime in the future. And so we're going to talk about how that can be integrated into Jackalope, and we've been having meetings over the past couple of months of the best way to do that, and we're coming up with some pretty good ideas, I think. And we'll be showing you what we're talking about and look at some things. Following that, we'll be talking about QC parameters, which are one of the things we don't talk enough about, probably. It's one of those things that if you really fine-tune your QC parameters, you can make your life as an operator so much easier. And so I'll be talking about that on Wednesday. And then where we're going from here after that. We've got a lot of cool things we can be doing, and we'll talk about some of those then. After that is the annual users group meeting, which is where you guys talk amongst yourselves, sort of like you do every year on Thursday morning, I think. And you could elect officers and do the things that you would normally do on that Thursday morning. And then talk about questions and concerns you have, and then you can bring us back in and give us your feedback. And then we'll have closing comments, plans for next year's, and hopefully be in Santa Fe. Okay, any questions on the agenda?
I was just going to point out, Joe, your initial statement that we had extended it through more days, but shortened each day. That turned out that we were able to just keep it to 3 days. Yeah.
Yep, I realized that halfway through talking that I had spoken incorrectly. Catherine's right. Okay. It's actually, we're going to the 16th. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We were able to collapse all the things that we needed to talk about in those 3 days. So very good. All right, so let's talk about some of the things we're going to have to deal with over the next few years. There are some good things coming out of this virtual meeting. We have BC attending, which I don't remember the last time British Columbia came to users group. It's tough to go across the border. And we have more people attending than normally would because of the fact that you can just get online and do it. And so that's definitely an advantage. But there are going to be some challenges along the way. Technologically, we've already had some mic issues, and that just seems to be kind of the story of our life in 2020. That would be a chapter in our book that we write about 2020's mic issues. It seems like we always have those. And there may be other technical issues as well. What we've done is we've built in 10 minutes between every session, and you'll see that in the agenda, where we can, pass the baton to whoever's speaking next, make sure any technological issues are dealt with. But if you do have internet problems, you drop out. Like Laura said, we are recording all these sessions, and so you can go back later if you are forced to drop out and watch what went on. And something catastrophic happens, like GoToMeeting goes down, we will write in the users group email chat group, whatever it is, it's a Google group, whatever it is, and tell everybody what we should do if GoToMeeting just decides to go down, and hope, have a plan B and go to Zoom or something like that. So we'll deal with the technological issues as they come up. One of the things that many times people tell me the best thing about users group isn't us blathering on about factors for 2 hours. It's actually the relationships that you can make with your peers at other states, talking amongst yourselves and saying, oh my gosh, I have that same device and I have that exact same problem, kind of things, and realizing that you're not in this alone. You've got peers and people all over the country that are going through the exact same issues that you're going through. And many times I've heard that as really the biggest benefit of our users group, actually getting together, having discussions, and knowing that, if you've got a WIM question, oh my gosh, I should call, Bill or something in Kansas and get his input or something like that. That's going to be harder in this setting. And, I kind of agree with what Drew said earlier. I wish we were all together, and I really hope that next year we're going to all be together here in Santa Fe. But I'd like to do the best with what we've got, and I still want to sort of see if we can still kind of get that vibe, where we can talk amongst ourselves and say, oh, that reminds me of blah, blah, blah. I mean, we have an agenda and we've got presentations, but so many times our presentations in real life get sidetracked because, this came up. We don't want to talk about what's important to us. We want to talk about what's important to you. So feel free to jump in, whether that means through voice, but if you're not comfortable with voice, through chat. Catherine and Laura will be monitoring the chat window. The person that's talking frequently will just completely ignore the chat window. So Laura and Catherine will break in. If Laura's doing a presentation, Catherine will be monitoring it, and vice versa. So feel free to, open up. Don't be shy at all. We're all one big happy family, one big happy traffic data processing family here. Some of us have known each other for years or decades at this point. Don't be shy. If you've got a question, bring it up, or if something that we're talking about, triggers some idea in your head that's been bugging you for the past 6 months, get it out there and we'll talk about it. I don't want this. I really loved the back and forth kind of dynamic nature of our usual user group meeting, people having a question and then someone over here goes, oh yeah, I have the same thing. I'd love if we can get that same vibe here. But we'll see, we'll give it a shot. And in that same vein, we have that 10-minute period between each session where, we'll try to get a discussion going, maybe ask some leading questions and see if people are interested in talking. If no one's interested in talking, that's fine, but we'd like to at least try. So that's where we're going here. Otherwise, it's going to be a pretty traditional users group meeting. We'll be talking about traffic stuff. Right, Margaret, says, a lot of discussions at lunch and in after hours excursions. Can you send out a list of contact info to everybody? Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and Margaret's correct. I mean, after hour stuff, you know, going to dinner and chatting about things, that's hugely beneficial. So Laura, can you manage that? Can you set out a list of contact info? Thank you, Margaret. Okay. Well, despite the virus's best intentions, we're still in business. It's been an interesting time, like it has been for everyone. You know, we're basically doing fine. We're struggling in areas just like everybody else is, but we're still clicking right along. What we're you know, our maintenance agreements are a great way to stabilize our financial situation, and you know, we're trying to get extra contracts to make up that extra stuff. But in general, we're doing fine. We've basically replaced Tratus at this point, and plus we've done a lot more than Tratus ever did, and so we're kind of at a really cool time in our life. We're at the point where we can start doing interesting new things like the roads and highways integration that we were talking about, or other things that you might be interested in. So one of the things I'd like to get out of this meeting is kind of what you guys' mind meld thinks our software should be next year. Like if there's some cool feature that you're really interested in, you know, I'd love to get that feedback from you, and you know, we can start going down that path. Because as you know, this is you know, basically we operate a lot like a co-op. You know, we don't decide what's going to be in the next version. We let you decide what's going to be in the next version. You're driving the development of the software, and you know, we want it to be exactly everything you want. So we're at the point now where, you know, we've gone down and we've checked all the boxes with Tratus. I think our last box was turning movement, which we implemented, you know, months ago at this point. And so yeah, we need new boxes. We need new things to look at. So one of the key goals from this is what is Jackalope going to look like in the future? What do you really want it to do? And so that's where we're at right now. Our competition is the same. Transmetric, I have not heard from them in a long time. I know they still exist. They still have a web presence, but they haven't responded to RFPs. So I have no idea what's going on there. Drakewell has come on the scene, and I think we talked about them last year. They had won, who did they win, Susie? I can't remember now. Someone back east. I don't know. They won somebody.
Right.
Georgia.
Yeah, they for sure have Georgia.
Georgia, okay. Mm-hmm. So they won Georgia. They were, I don't remember exactly their details, but they're, I think they're trying to get into this business too. You know, after that, we've noticed that there's usually two phases that companies coming into this market go through, and whether they can pass these two phases, you know, determines whether they're going to survive. The first is they'll do one part of data collection, like continuous count processing, and they'll do that and they'll say, oh, well, short-term count processing, that's easy, and then that's their first stumbling block because it's not easy. It's you know, that adds a whole layer of complexity to the thing. The second part that we see people stumble is thinking, oh, we did one state. How hard could a second state be? Well, very hard, because y'all do things differently. Every single one of you does things differently. And so that jump from having one state done and then generalizing that to get more than one state done is tough. And that's where we see most people stumble. They get that first one done, but we'll see. I mean, maybe they're going to be awesome at that. And then MS2 has just been, you know, dominating the marketing. They actually took New Jersey. I don't know if you guys ever met Chris Zajac. They never came to our users group, so you may not have met Chris. But this year, they went New Jersey and went to MS2. And then not really, people have stopped making their own traffic processing software for the most part, which is good. I think because it's, you know, so this isn't really as much of a competition anymore, but I guess people still do their own thing. There aren't any sales prospects right now. I put New York State DOT because we keep hearing that the RFP is going to be out in another month. But with COVID, basically everything stopped. We're basically just waiting for the gears of the economy to grind back into forward motion, and then you know, maybe things will start happening again, right? But right now it's really slow. New York, for those that have been customers for a while, know that they were a Tratus customer, and they actually still use Tratus, but they have not been able to get an RFP out to replace Tratus with Jackalope. So we have high hopes that we will get New York State if they ever get an RFP, but we will see. Oh, Margaret says she thinks VDOT is looking. That's good. I know Susie talked to them not too long ago.
Yes, we're in contact with them, and I believe COVID really did unseat them quite a bit. They were looking at probably the firms that Joe shared in the prior slide, and we're looking for a demo from everybody this summer, and then they sort of, we lost contact. We didn't disable it, but I think on their end, a lot of things shifted, as I know for a lot of DOTs that's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you guys know better than we do. I mean, everything just shut down. I mean, from the getting, you know, from our standpoint, from the, you know, accounts receivable standpoint, you know, getting, you know, people to pay has been really difficult just because the gears have all stopped. And that includes procurement too. And people don't know what the future holds. Are they going to have a budget that can support the, you know, the money that they're going to be asking for next year? Who knows? So, yeah, it's a time of uncertainty. But thanks, Margaret. So we'll see. I mean, I think we're not expecting to get anybody unless New York comes out with something. We'll probably, you know, probably will have the exact same slide next year, but we'll see. It's just, you just never know. We don't need another sale to survive, but you know, we like to keep, and for people that have been with us for a long time, we are not a super aggressive company, just the opposite. We are very conservative when it comes to bidding on RFPs, and we tend, I would say, for every 3 RFPs that come out, we may bid on 1. Maybe it's higher than that, but not much higher than that. So we're very picky when it comes to this, because I mean, basically for a couple of reasons. One, we know what we do well, and that's this. It's Jackalope, it's data processing, and whenever we go too far outside of that, we start, you know, we're not nearly as comfortable. So we really like to stick into our own areas here. There's one big big reason, and the other is it takes away from you guys. You know, we do operate like a co-op, and so if we have some crazy RFP that's going to ask for the world over here, and that world doesn't benefit you guys at all, it really goes against our business philosophy of, you know, every state that we get in, making everyone a little bit richer. You know, if this state wants to pay for some cool thing with counter management or something like Kansas did, everybody gets that. You know, you get it for free. You don't have to pay for it. Kansas paid for it. So yeah, if we really stay inside our bubble, and if the RFP is completely crazy, we just don't even bid on it. Okay, and that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions before we?
Joe, this is Rob instead. I just wanted to see if you can hear me now.
Yes, you said that's Rob?
It is. So it sounds like I'm talking to someone.
How's it going?
It's going well.
All right. Good to have you. Rebooting is the elixir of health for computers, so awesome. Okay, so next we've got Catherine. I will switch presenters. Is anybody other than Iowa working at the office? Just curious.
I am in Wyoming, but just me.
You're the only one?
Yeah, the other two guys are at home. Ben's on here now, and I don't know about Mike.
Yeah. I'm at the office too, but Jeff's right across the thing there, but other than that, no one's here, so.
WISTAT has their continuous count staff meeting in an office, but they're on the road vast majority of their time, but they do meet on Monday mornings and usually Thursday afternoon.
Okay. Yeah, it actually looks like a few people are. Idaho has some people in the office, and BC. Yeah, very quiet. I bet it's very quiet. Yeah, for everybody. Very cool. Catherine, did I give you, or do you have presenting?
Yep, I should be taking it now, and you should see my presentation, hopefully just a single page.
Yes, and you know the punishment for presenting, right?
Yes, am I going to take over right now? So go ahead and.
Yeah, I think our next agenda item is at 7:40, unless someone has any questions they want to talk about.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to talk about our next release that we are working on now. Last year, during the user conference, hang on, let me see if I can change my slide. So last year during the conference, it came up that it would be a good idea if all of the clients were able to present their priorities of what they'd like us to be working on for Jackalope next releases. So what we have is a system called Atlassian, and we have JIRAs that are created in that, which are like problem tracking tickets or new request type tickets. So when things come up from each of you, we create these tickets and work on them by priority. If there's something that is critical, something's not functioning without being fixed, then those get fixed and worked on immediately right away. Then we have things that you want improvements on or new functionality, and so those get created and they kind of sit there until they trickle to the top of our priority list. So last year it came up that you would all like to be involved, first of all knowing what we're working on, and second of all even having input into what we're working on. So we put out a process then last year for a release where each state was able to, or client was able to request what they wanted us to start working on. And we went through that and we had one release already done. That would have been our version 5 that we, or 4. We released version 4 with all of the items that had been requested by the clients. So now we're working on 5, and I'll show the next slide of each of the requests that had come in from, why does this not want to change? So these are the current items that will be in our version 5. I'll go through each of these and do a quick description of what they are, telling you the status of where those items are. And then at the end, the final one is a biggie, and Laura's going to do a quick demonstration of how that's going to look and work for you. So British Columbia had, and they use the virtual site process a lot. They have quite a few virtual sites, and discovered that when a site has a site split, the lane, whether it was a lane split or not, the fact that a site had a split caused the virtual site copying data process not to even work. So the workaround for that is currently to not have data bound to the lanes of other virtual sites, but to do roadway or directions only. Therefore, a site split doesn't break it. They wanted this fixed so that the lanes could still be intact, and so we have done that. It's complete, and Michael has already tested it in the test site here, and we're done. Delaware didn't give us any items to work on, and so Iowa had their priority being getting the scheduler complete, the turning movement complete. So, well, both scheduler and turning movement. Turning movement took the longest, and now they're at a full implemented place, so theirs is complete. Idaho wanted MyoVision turning movement added. So of course we had to have the Iowa turning movement done, and then we could work on the MyoVision. So Joe is actually nearly done with that. In fact, Raymond, right after the user conference, you'll be getting a email to meet with him to kind of go over all the details that maybe he needs to tidy up. But in general, that's very close to being done. So MyoVision means turning movement for that counter type. Kansas didn't have any specifics. We're doing a lot of back processing, getting them processed from prior years to current year through Jackalope, through annuals, and so that was going to be their priority for this, but that's not necessarily a JIRA that mattered to anybody else. Kentucky wanted a report for notes, and we're finished with that. I'll give you a quick demonstration of an example of what that looks like at the end of my talk of each client's list here. Now you'll be able to, as you know, go in and actually create a report that shows you what kind of notes you want to look at. Right now, it's kind of a black hole of a place where notes get created and they exist, but you can't really look at anything that you might be interested in finding. And so that will be in the next release, that you can create a report on various notes that you're interested in looking at. Missouri didn't give us a list of anything they wanted us to specifically work on. Minnesota wanted factor group editing. Up until now, no one has ever done any changes to factor groups. You've had your groups, they all existed. They existed from beginning of time to end of time. They weren't ever really changed. They wanted to be able to expire factor groups and keep them around historically, but not necessarily available for sites to associate with for the future. And so basically it turned into two JIRAs. One, a very simple editing ability, which is being able to change the name of a factor group or set these expiration dates or begin and end dates of the factor groups. And that part is done. Then it was discovered that there was a lot more, Minnesota wanted much more functionality for this management. And so now it created a different JIRA, and we're in progress on that. And that specifically addresses sites being, if a site date range doesn't coincide with a factor group date range, then that factor group should not be allowed to be assigned to the group in the site window if they don't coincide and if they aren't in conjunction with each other. There's just more to it, and it'll be a pretty, it has turned into being a pretty big programming item. When this gets rolled out to everybody, the important thing to know will be, if you do end up wanting to edit factor groups, you're going to have to be careful that your factor groups are always set begin and end dates that are truly valid. If you make up a valid begin date of your factor group, but you have sites that predate that, then you've now created a mismatch, and you're going to run into problems with your sites being members of factor groups correctly. So when these release notes get created and we send out these new releases, we'll be calling to your attention the caveats and the gotchas of trying to change factor groups and what that might mean to you in the interim. Nevada had requested file performance processing time. IRD specifically for them was running slowly. So we've been working on that, and boy, does that sound like an easy thing to do. And Jeff can pipe in and say, no. Performance enhancements has turned into a really, really big project, and in fact has made this next release time frame much slower than we had anticipated because it just touches so many different things. In addition, it's not just going to impact IRD, it'll impact basically file processing for all of your individual vehicle record type files. In addition to then file processing, we're touching the monthly for these same individual vehicle record sites, performance enhancements for that. So there have been just lots of iterations of that going on. There's just a ton of testing that goes along with it because it is touching everything. So that's our biggest stumbling block right now to getting our next release out. I was hoping it would be out about now, and it's not going to be ready. I'm guessing maybe in a month. I'm thinking that this release that we're all talking about now might be ready in about a month. Utah wanted the ability to submit monthly in the future. Oh, I should have put that in progress. That's actually being worked on now. So you know how, hopefully, when you submit files, you don't have to hit submit and it goes to the queue immediately. If you have a large batch of files that you don't want to run right now, you can tell them a future date and time to run. And so Utah would also like the ability to do the same for submitting a monthly job. So we're in the process of adding that ability now. In fact, that's probably almost done. Wisconsin has a very, I don't know what, it's a very complicated hierarchy and system for creating their HPMS statistics. Anyway, for them, they wanted to make sure that our time was free and available to them to getting HPMS done this year, this go round. And so we got them out successfully on time. Wyoming had a request to be able to load bulk sites. So instead of you all, if you had 1,000 new sites to add this year, having to give us spreadsheets or get us to assign things to Cindy to help load all of them, or goodness, if you guys had to create new sites manually for all of the new sites that you were adding, Wyoming wanted the ability to submit a spreadsheet, a CSV, to the system and add all of the sites at once. And so that also was a pretty large programming task. Took a lot of iterations with a lot of testing. Thank you, Laura. And so that's complete. And you can now, or in this version, we'll be able to submit a CSV with sites and have them automatically loaded into the system. Laura's going to show you what that looks like quickly after I show here what a note report looks like. So you can generate a report using the usual note, using your usual report engine and search by a specific site. Actually, that looks like maybe what was done here. I don't know what the criteria was that was sent, but this almost looks like we asked for this site, for a date range, any notes that exist for it. And so now here we see the date and the notes that were assigned to that site. You'll be able to query the note report in all of the different ways that you now use the report engine to get. Just all sites for a date range. You can do a site group by a date range, or just a date range, all sites, everything that's in the system. Does anyone have any questions on anything I covered so far? I don't see any comments in there. So Laura, do you want to take control? And she was going to show what the...
Sure.
Hi.
Actually, I think I'll close the blinds a little bit. I think I have a, there. And I have a headset on, so you'll get to see that. I prefer that. Actually, working remotely for the longest time, I've always preferred to have a headset. So hopefully you guys can hear and see okay. Can you see my screen?
I do.
Okay, so let me preface this by saying, oops. Let me preface this by saying that this will take a bit of customization for each of you guys. As we roll this out to you, I will work with each of you like I had done with creating the copy an existing site to a new site sort of setup. This will also take a little bit of setup to make it function properly, be user-friendly. I will do a training video that will be somewhat general, but then with each of you that may work on loading new sites, I will work with you before you start using it to sort of fine-tune it for you. We could maybe do a run through together of a small group of new sites you want to do and just make sure it works. And some of you may not prefer to use this either, so that'll certainly be up to you. First of all, I'm going to use Wyoming test database as our example. This is where I had done the majority of my testing. So in the site administration is a button called bulk upload, and as you may recall, menu items can be placed anywhere in Jackalope you prefer them to be. So if this is not where you'd like it to be, it doesn't have to live here. It can also be made invisible to all users except those that have administrative privileges. So it doesn't have to be too scary of a button to have around. So I'll click bulk upload here. This works similarly to the manual entry of counts screen, so it may look a little bit familiar once we get into it. So first, you will choose a file that you've created that it has all of your new sites. And I'm recording this session, so please be patient with me for a second as my machine is busy opening up this window here.
Does it typically take resources then to both record and present? Maybe in the cases where you're the presenter, we could have someone else do the recording.
Yeah, sure. Actually, what I'll do, I'm going to stop recording, and if you could start, then I can stitch these two videos together. So I'm going to stop, although it's also saving to my computer, so we'll see. Okay, I have a user group demo bulk upload sheet here, and I'm going to say open. And when you hit the upload button, you're going to get sort of a mapping interface that's going to take header information from your spreadsheet. And in fact, I can show you that spreadsheet here. This is what the spreadsheet looks like. And this actually came, I've edited it, but this actually came from Wyoming, so I used theirs. And sorry for that other screen in there. See if I can bring that in front. Nevertheless, so the station number field in the spreadsheet is going to go to station number in Jackalope. And bear with me here for a second and I'll just speed through these.
Laura, the step you're doing, does that have to be done every time they import a CSV or only the first time?
It does. That's a good question. So this is actually going to look at your spreadsheet and look at all of your header fields and pull them in for just this time. So this is something you'll have to do every time. And I'll explain one of the downfalls of not having your spreadsheet set up correctly in just a minute, which relates to that also.
Laura, real quick, is route correct? Is it supposed to be route/mile pointer? Is it supposed to be
Thank you. No, it isn't. So you shouldn't do a presentation during a users group conference and try and speed through this and expect excellent results, unless somebody like Joe is watching and notices. So thanks for that. Let's see, I'm on positive direction. Okay, so assuming I did this correctly, I've mapped the fields in my spreadsheet to the fields, site fields in Jackalope, and I'll hit Start Import. And that spinner can go for a very long time as Jackalope goes through quite a few things. It's going to take your first line in the spreadsheet, which it looks like I can't exactly move this. Oh, move it there. Okay. This is our spreadsheet here. And Jackalope's going to go through each of these and try and determine if each line meets all the criteria of a new site in the database, like this station number in Wyoming has to be unique. So it's first going to see if UG0001 is unique in the system. If this site already exists, it's going to fail loading this site. The county number, maybe it doesn't have to be unique, it'll move on, that sort of thing. So Jackalope's actually doing sort of a QC on every single one of these sites that you want to load. So I only have 10 new sites here, but this can be sort of a long process that you should patiently wait, and the spinner will stay on the screen and just go and go until it's finished. And then you'll get a report of what sort of things happened. Christy, there is not currently a maximum number of sites that can be loaded. Let's see.
I didn't see any questions.
Let's see, I think, so when I did the test, I took an actual set of sites that Wyoming had sent, and I believe there were maybe 800. Oh boy, I could be remembering that wrong. There were a large number of sites that were loaded, and I wanted to sort of hit the system with the most that I could do. And it worked. It did load hundreds of sites all at one time. One of the limitations of this is if you're interested in loading, let's say, 1,000 new short-term sites into the system and you've made a mistake, you're going to get maybe your direction code was spelled here, like in this first one, the row 3 in my spreadsheet, the value east is not possible because east actually has to be spelled with a capital E. It needs to match what the database is expecting. So east with a lowercase e does not exist as a direction. And so that's why I was talking about working with each of you individually to make sure you understand what all of the requirements are, the way things need to be spelled, make sure that you don't have a seasonal factor group name that doesn't even exist. So there's kind of a lot of back and forth. So the larger the spreadsheet is that you have, the more sort of failures you could possibly have. But to answer Christy's question, no, there isn't technically a limit on the number of sites.
There's also a question from Margaret, but
okay.
I don't understand it. Can it be set up to detect header names that are consistent like HPMS does? Maybe you understand.
I think I understand what Margaret is saying. Like, we have a similar interface in Mac for importing spreadsheets, and if the headers are spelled correctly and in the right format or something, it will default the destination drop-down list thingy to the correct thing. So I'm thinking, Margaret, like for example, if you look at the spreadsheet right there, if instead of being station number parenthesis road name 1, were instead just called road name 1, I'm wondering if you're saying then at that point would we default the column to be whatever the road name 1 is? Yes. Yeah. So basically to make that drop down easier to deal with. And I think that's a good thing to maybe create a JIRA for, because it is possible. That is what we do in that other UI. We do have defaults.
I'll write it down. We can
so
write
like
that as a JIRA
the
for the
default
future.
would be whatever the column name is. Like if you go to site metadata and look at the actual site column name, you know, if they put that as the column name, you know, road name 3_2 or something like that, or maybe exactly what the row is called, you know, that would be the default. We wouldn't assume it's that, but we would default the drop-down list to be that. And
Okay,
then they could
so
change it.
great. Then Catherine will have make a JIRA for that, and then I'll test having that functionality working. So,
and I will just let me clarify one other thing on Christy's question. We don't have an absolute maximum number, but there always in the background there is a session timeout time. So yeah, if you uploaded a 50 gigabyte spreadsheet, for example, it would almost certainly at some point time out. Just so, and that's a server dependent thing. You know, we can't just give an answer. It depends on what your IT infrastructure is and what that timeout is. But I mean, there's no hard-coded limit, but there are probably technical limits to how big a spreadsheet can be.
Raymond has asked if there's a maximum number of fields. I'm sure it's just going to be the number of fields that exist in your site.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Laura, you could show site metadata real quickly,
sure.
Just for people that don't. I mean, yeah, you could only have one per site metadata field, so the max would be the number of site metadata fields you have.
So these are the fields that populate your site screen. And so the assumption would be if axle factor group is a required field for a site, then you need to have this column in your spreadsheet. Perhaps there are some custom fields in your Jackalope that don't always get filled out, and so they wouldn't necessarily need to be part of your spreadsheet that you're going to load sites for. So the assumption would be that you're going to at least have maybe up to 32 fields in your spreadsheet. Some states have many more site metadata fields than others. So there wouldn't be a limit, Raymond, as far as the max you could have, because so far you're, for the most part, going to want to have all of these in your spreadsheet. And so not to harp on it continuously, but you'll get messages that talk about row 3, your value east was not appropriate. It needed to be spelled differently. I did some of these on purpose. I created an east here that was lowercase just to show you that it would fail on that. One site was already present in the system. And then urban local roads is not a possible daily factor group. That doesn't exist in this Wyoming test database. So this one here, urban local roads, this line, this site did not load because urban local roads is not possible. And so depending on how carefully you load your, how carefully you create your spreadsheet, which is something I can work on with you, it will give you either less or more errors. And this is sort of the way things look at this time. So any other questions about how the general look of that is? And again, I will give you all some more specific training when the time comes, and we'll get spreadsheet sort of formats identified and that sort of thing.
So when I create the release notes for everybody, and we're about to start implementing, distributing the new versions to everybody, we will have notes in the release notes when we've got things that you need to work with us to do in order to use a feature that we're giving to you. So it's important when we send those release notes out for people to actually go through and see what it is that you're getting in the new version, so that you know if there's things that you'll need to also be involved in setup or any of the other things like that.
And my webcam punishment will temporarily end, and then I'll be back in a minute.
Are you next, Laura?
Yes.
Okay, that's right. Okay, we're pretty much on time, at least for ending the release discussion. So does anyone have any other questions for me about future release coming up? I'll say, I don't know if Laura noticed this, I am, for some reason, I'm not seeing when we get new comments in this chat, and it's my screen stuck on the oldest chat that I had seen. So I'll have to be pretty diligent to look in here and find them. So if anyone else notices a chat that I don't catch, feel free to tell us.
And so I am next,
Okay.
but we have 10 minutes. If people want to get a coffee or use the restroom or things, we can mute and then be back in about 10 minutes.
Sounds good.
And again, if
Okay.
you guys have something to discuss among yourselves, go for it.
Yeah, we're going to see everyone join in webcams and
Everybody all at once.
You're free to do, by the way.
Okay.
That would be cool if everybody did do that, Catherine. If we could see
I saw
everybody.
something like that on the games last night. Like they were doing virtual training for football teams, and the screen was just like full of people. And I thought, wow, that's just sort of, it was very confusing looking to me. So
Margaret asked, can you make her the presenter?
Yep.
Margaret,
are you
no.
doing it, Joe?
Yeah, I got it.
It seems funny.
Oh no,
Margaret,
she says no, I didn't. You know what? It does that sometimes when you click on something. Yeah, she didn't mean to actually ask to be presenter.
Oh,
well,
she
too
did her mouse
late
on-
now, Margaret. I mean, you're committed.
Yeah, no, Margaret, gonna show something.
Mark wants to see
Forget
the.
what does that. There's something that I see people do that often in meetings with us.
Yeah,
and
I think
I
if you
knew they
click the
didn't
wrong,
mean
like
to.
one of those buttons, the hot buttons, if you click the wrong one, it'll ask for presenter. Yeah, like what Margaret said, it's in the MIDI toolbar, one of those buttons. Mark's asking to show the YouTube address. Maybe Laura can show that when she starts.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. It's long to show, but I'll also email it out. As soon as I start uploading videos, I'll email it also to everybody. But for now, I will put it in the chat.
Okay. I am going to go get coffee, so herb.
Okay, so we'll be back at 20 after, whatever hour that is, wherever you are.
Okay, has everyone fortified themselves with their next cup of coffee and ready to go?
You bet.
I have.
I don't have a slide to show. This was just going to be more of a group sort of discussion. Hopefully, if anyone wants to discuss, but I just wanted to point out a few of the challenges with working remotely that we've specifically dealt with as far as Jackalope is concerned. And then if any of you have had challenges, working for your department that you could speak to. Actually, it might help others just to hear what troubles you've had and the workarounds you've made, in addition to the ones that we've maybe been able to help with or help troubleshoot on the Jackalope point of view. Obviously, working remotely can be a challenge. You have to wear pants, as we saw from the poor sportscaster that wasn't wearing his pants, but he had his top part all put together. That I thought that was hilarious. I'm not sure if you guys saw that. And as a funny anecdote, I called an insurance company last week and I heard a tiny little girl ask, was it time for her to eat her cookies yet? And I think the poor woman I was on the phone with was horrified, but I could appreciate that she was working from home. There's certainly some of the things that we've encountered, Catherine and I as customer service people, is there can be slow home internet, completely different speeds than maybe you're used to working with at work, that cause an issue with your connectivity to Jackalope. And so I'll just remind you guys that the Jackalope home button, which just in case any of you don't recall where that is, I'll share my screen here. And that is, we'll go back to Wyoming. If we ever ask you to please do a few steps to help us diagnose and we say, start with clicking your Jackalope home button, that's this top button. Jackalope home, it actually says in the black bar at the top. I know I spoke to Raymond last week and he was having issues with viewing his data management screen. He was trying to view files he had submitted, I'll pull it up here, that were under a different agency. So when he would click a different agency, he had a few to choose from down here. Maybe there was an internet speed or it could have been the server he was, the Jackalope server was being slow on our end. So that's what we try to help determine and fix it if it's on our end. But he was having trouble viewing the actual batches that he wanted. So what we said was perhaps he had been unceremoniously disconnected from his session, and could he please click his Jackalope home button and start the following steps over again. And so we're really trying to figure out, is there a problem with the way you're connecting from home if you're working at home, or is there an actual issue with Jackalope, maybe a bug that needs to be fixed, or the Jackalope server is maxed out and we need to get that part figured out. So that's one of the things we'll try to figure out. Is the issue on your end or is it on our end? Another one is that people's work hours sure seem to be different working from home than when they worked from the office. And so I think Nevada has the grand prize in the times that we've gotten an email from Nevada people. They have, at least the one email I got was way later than I would have expected anyone to be working. So the reason I bring that up is because there are many things that we will be doing on your servers in what we consider to be after hours, so that we're not impacting the performance of Jackalope. Except that after hours is completely different during this pandemic time. So I'll just ask, is anybody typically working after, let's say, 5 o'clock your local time on a regular basis?
I was going to say maybe the email that came at that time was more like someone starting really early versus working really late.
Sure.
Yeah. Margaret says she works after 5, but not necessarily using Jackalope. Vicky, same.
Yeah, I could be working anywhere from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m.
That was Nicholas.
Yeah, so it seems like there's a little bit of that, maybe not on a regular basis, but occasionally. So if you find that Jackalope seems to be slow in responding and you're outside of, let's say, quote, normal business hours, still send us an email. I don't know that we'll necessarily see it right at that moment, but we can try and determine if it's something, a slowness on your end, or if it was Jackalope being slow because we were busy on the server doing database backups, or Jeff had some, obviously each of us can't speak to what the other is doing at the moment. Catherine and I are your front people for your initial contact that has, there's been a slowness issue, but then we need to talk to Joe or Cindy or Jeff and see if they were doing something at that time and determine if there really was a problem or if we were hogging your resources. So keep that in mind. Melissa said she works odd hours, but never that much, you know, being early, but Sunday evening. So as we've all been working from home more and more, and this doesn't seem like it's going to come to a swift end, we may need to determine what days you tend to work on the weekends or in the evenings and see if that becomes an issue for all of us working together and need to work around it. So just keep us posted like you guys typically do. Let's see what else. One other issue is that I know one of the regular workers in Idaho was connecting, it seemed to be maybe through a VPN to get from his home computer through into the office. And that VPN connection, or whatever it ended up being, was causing almost what seemed to be like double button clicks in certain cases. So specific to him, and it seemed to be no one else. So I don't know that if we've figured out exactly what caused it or if we just have our suspicions, but submitting a monthly job was actually one button click of saying yes to run monthly was creating two monthly jobs. And so one had to finish and then the next one had to get picked up and finished before he could actually work on that monthly. And that was becoming a pervasive problem for him. And again, wasn't happening to anyone else because of the way they were connecting, but it was certainly happening to him basically every time, and needs to not happen. And so we are working through the possibility, and correct me if I'm wrong, Catherine, of ignoring a duplicate job if its timestamp is identical to the first one. So Jackalope could identify if two identical jobs were being submitted. That certainly wouldn't be intentional on the user's part. And so to ignore the second or third or fourth job that comes right after the initial one. Other than that, we haven't seen too many problems with the working remotely. I know a few people have commented about having trouble getting inter-office emails. Maybe contact from us goes down briefly because they can't reach their emails, their work emails. Other than that, it doesn't seem to be too much of an issue. Have you guys had extra problems with polling, or I don't know, I can't speak to whatever issues you might have that you haven't let me know about, but if anyone wants to pipe in with other issues they've had working remotely, this might be a good place where normally if we were in Santa Fe or you know, live with each other, people would raise their hand and this would be sort of a moment when we go off into a longer discussion of challenges people had. So I'll just open it up to any more comments that anyone's had.
One of the other things that I'm thinking of is we know when people are having problems because we're hosting their servers, but there are also people who are being hosted, you know, by their own IT departments, and they might also be having some of these same challenges working at a little bit off hours and what their internal systems might be set to do on regularly scheduled times. So just something to keep in mind for everyone in general is if you're working at an off time and you're not getting the same performance or response with Jackalope, it could be due to a job that's running on the server. I don't think anyone seems to have any more to add to the discussion.
Well, I wasn't sure if this was going to end up being a 30-minute session or not, and it seems like not. I don't know, Joe, if you think perhaps we should take another break and then just come back at 9 for Drew's part, and just in case anybody who hasn't joined in yet was hoping to wait and come in at the 9 o'clock survey responses session.
Yeah, I agree. We need to keep our schedule for sure. So yeah, let's just take a longer break than normal and meet back at 9 Pacific.
Okie dokie.
All right.
All right.